Welcome to the Genius Talk podcast. I'm your host Atul Raj from the bestemailmarketer.com, and today we have Molly Lopez with us. Molly, thank you so much for
Hello.
joining.
So happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
That's awesome. For our listeners who don't know you, can you tell them who you are and what do you do?
Sure. I'm Molly Lopez. I'm the founder and CEO of Sparrow, which is a boutique digital marketing agency headquartered in Miami, Florida. And I started it in 2019. So we're 6 years into our agency journey. We work with businesses across a pretty wide variety of industries, doing all things digital marketing.
So, how do you first get into digital marketing? Like, what happened?
That's a great question. So I studied marketing in school and started working for a marketing agency back in 2014. And that was kind of not my first foray into digital marketing, but into the agency world. And working at an agency, I think, is so great in the beginning of your career because you get exposed to a lot of different types of marketing services and a lot of different types of clients. So I was doing everything from writing press releases to creating social media content to going on full production commercial shoots to turning around and doing email marketing and paid digital. And it really got to get my feet wet in a bunch of different facets of the industry before figuring out like what I was the best at and kind of honing in on my role. So the agency experience was awesome for me getting started in the industry.
So, what was the moment that you decide I'm going to start my own agency?
So it really came down to me to ownership. Anyone who owns a marketing agency understands the amount of time and effort that goes into creating this type of business. It's a service based business. So you're exchanging time for money. And I was doing that at the agency that I was working at to an extreme degree, working sometimes 60, 70 hour plus weeks. And I started to burn out, which I think is a common experience for a lot of people in this industry as well. And I realized that if I'm going to put my health and my kind of heart and soul and 110% on the line, I would rather do that for myself than for somebody else. I, realized like, hey, my boss could sell this company tomorrow and cash out and make millions of dollars. And all the blood, sweat, and tears that I put into help building it would not be rewarded for that effort because I wasn't an owner. And so I think realizing that I could do the same thing that I was doing, but with complete ownership over my investment and over everything that I was pouring into an agency would be the better long-term move.
So, I'm curious, like, what made you decide to choose Sparrow as your agency name?
That's a great question, too. So, like many founders, when I was getting ready to take the jump from working for somebody else to working for myself, I was scared. I, was used to getting a steady paycheck and having that to rely on, and going from that to relying just on myself as a sole source of income was scary. And I am actually a person of faith. I'm very spiritual. And there is a Bible verse that talks about how God looks after even the basic needs of the sparrows that we see outside. And that verse just kept coming to me over and over again in my head. And I was like, what about Sparrow for the name? But, kind of modernizing it and shortening it into the spelling that I have today, which is Sparo. And that's basically where the name comes from.
That's a really good origin story. Okay, so what digital marketing services you help your clients with?
So we focus on three kind of core pillars, which are social media, which is still a really big bucket, right? So that's everything from content creation. We, are going to our clients' locations or filming studio type content for them, making lots of short form videos, posts, doing all of that from A to Z. We also do community management. So, online moderation of their content, customer service via social media channels, and influencer marketing as well, which has become a big component of the work that our clients are looking for and what we're able to execute. Then the second pillar of what we do is paid media. So, paid digital media across virtually any channel that you can think of. So, we're running everything from connected TV to paid social media, performance Google ads, PPC, search media, that type of thing, digital radio, so any type of paid digital media buying. We also do, and we do that in house. And then the third pillar is email marketing. So, working with clients to set up email automations and flows and CRM customizations, any kind of like SMS or email consumer touch points. So, those are kind of the three main categories or buckets that we work in.
So, what kind of businesses get the best result working with you?
Yeah, so we are a little unique when it comes to smaller digital agencies. A lot of digital agencies will have like one niche that they focus on. So, we just work with roofers or we just work with, D2C companies. We work with a pretty wide variety of companies. I always joke that like the list of people that we don't work with is shorter than the list of types of companies that we do. But we've kind of narrowed it down in the last couple of years to six primary industries. So we work with legal, so law firms and like legal related businesses, medical, so physicians' practices, hospital groups, medical technology companies, really anything that's kind of in that healthcare type of space. Consumer products, so things that you can go into the grocery store and buy off the shelf, consumer packaged goods, mostly like food and beverage and health and beauty. The fourth is nonprofit. We love our nonprofit clients. So organizations that are, cause driven and, doing some type of good work in the world. We have a significant number of nonprofit clients. I think that's four. Five is commercial real estate. So we work with real estate developers and commercial real estate brokerages, firms, anyone who's kind of operating in that commercial real estate space. And then the last one is hospitality and destination. So, restaurants, hotels, anything that's kind of like travel, lifestyle type of client. So, it's a pretty broad scope and really just based on how we grew our business. In the beginning, I grew the company completely off of referrals, and that's still the primary driver of work for us today. And so I had all different types of companies that would, be referred to me through our partners and our network and pipeline. And over time, we kind of figured out like what type of companies were the best fit just for our team and our services and the suite of things that we could provide for them. And we realized, most of our portfolio fell into one of those six categories. And so those are the industries that we've kind of doubled down on and we're now focused on.
Can you share one of your top favorite list building strategy?
List building strategy?
Yeah.
Well, I think that everything now, right, is being driven by AI. So, we've worked with data mining companies for years to do custom scrapes for data that we might need for various projects, whether that's like a cold email campaign or a paid media campaign where we're using proprietary data for custom targeting. And it's amazing how quickly AI is replacing like the manual work of that. So we actually are working with an awesome contact out of like Argentina who is building a very cool like AI tool that scrapes contact information based on its given criteria. Obviously, there's tools like Apollo and Clay and lots of different you know enterprise level platforms also that people are using for that type of work these days. I think it's a huge relief because it's, very manually intensive and or cost intensive to compile these types of lists manually. And so I think the fact that AI is revolutionizing, like list building and data gathering as a sector is really, really great. And one of the better applications of AI that we're seeing in the industry for sure.
Okay. So first step is to like scraping the list, right? After that, you guys will use some kind of AI to email them and get them into emails, right?
Yeah. So gathering the data is definitely, I would say, one of the most foundational parts of any outbound email strategy. And using, yeah, AI tools for that just makes it much more scalable because otherwise, you're either purchasing an existing database from a company or from a platform like Zoom Info or, Lucia or, and not that those platforms are bad, but the sheer volume of data that they have, it's almost impossible for them to keep it up to date. And, people on your list could be changing jobs, changing emails, changing departments, all that sort of thing. And so, like, the freshness of the data, I think, is really important for any type of like list building activity. And so, using AI for that component is awesome. Then it's really important to use the right technologies in addition to that for your whole outbound strategy. So, we use a platform called Instantly, which is kind of the industry, I would say, one of the like gold standard platforms for cold email. It's built for cold email. One of the worst things that you can do is try to deploy a ton of outbound cold emails from like your personal email address or even like your Mailchimp or your high level or like your CRM account. Like those CRMs that you use to manage your internal owned contacts are very different than an outbound cold email platform. And so you definitely want to make sure that you are using the correct type of platform because the last thing that you want is for your entire company's domain to be jeopardized and blacklisted by Google or Yahoo or one of the major email clients in the world because you're flagged as sending out what are essentially spam emails.
Yeah. Okay. So, can you share any one of your favorite success story?
Favorite success stories. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, we have so many. I'll go back to one of my first clients, which is still a client today. It's called Friends of Miami Animals Foundation, FOMA. And so it's one of our nonprofit clients. And over the past 6 years now that we've worked with them, we've helped them raise over $1 million in funds to support their nonprofit. We have helped them launch a very successful program called Operation Pit Stop, which is like a spay neuter program for specifically bully breed dogs here in South Florida. And we've been able to help them, gosh, probably I would say close to like 1,000 animals have been spayed and neutered through that program. And this campaign was very multifaceted. It involved out of home, it involved social media, digital advertising, just like a really kind of full omni-channel suite of marketing tactics and on obviously what was a very small budget because they're a nonprofit. And so I think that, working with like big clients and big budgets is also a lot of fun and can be cool because there's just a lot more that you can do. But I think that some of the best success stories are, how you were able to achieve success for a client with like small restrictions because it forces you to be creative and scrappy and make sure that you get the job done with the amount of resources that you have.
By the way, when you said small, like, what does that mean?
I think that like for instance for this like Operation Pit Stop campaign that we have, for instance, like the entire budget for the project was less than $20,000. So, yeah.
Okay, so in 2026, what marketing channel is going to give with a huge ROI according to you?
That's a great question. I mean, you still have like I think like Meta and Google are kind of like the two biggest platforms that are going to continue to get the lion's share of companies' ad spend and attention. But I think that on the Google side of things, it's being eroded a little bit by ChatGPT and how people are now using AI for search. So I would say 2026 is the year that companies really need to start taking their SEO seriously because more and more consumer search behavior, buying behavior is all going to be driven by AI. And how do you rank in AI results? It's the same tactics that you would employ in SEO, with some, of course, additions and additional tactics that are designed specifically for AI ranking. But typically, what's good for the goose is good for the gander is we say in the States. So, what you're doing on the SEO side of things to rank in Google is also going to help you rank in these AI platforms like ChatGPT, like Claude, etc., that consumers are increasingly turning to make buying decisions. And so being actively in those platforms, I think, is essential.
Okay, so as a founder and agency owner, you have to make a lot of creative decisions, which will have a huge impact for your clients. So, what routine or some kind of barrier you keep that will keep you a high performer and have a good mental state?
I think sleep is really important to me. So I try to get at least 7 hours of sleep every night. I also have a almost 2 year old. Between my business, which is my baby, and my actual baby, I don't have a lot of free time. And I have to do a lot every single day. I have to show up for my team, I have to show up for my clients, I have to show up for my family. And if I don't have enough sleep, I can't do that. So I'm big on sleep, sleep quality, and, amount of sleep. So even if I have to stay up late, I'll try to, sleep in a little bit later. Just make sure that I'm not running on empty, because that's really when I start to burn out, is like when I'm not getting enough sleep.
Okay, so for our listeners who want to connect with you, get some help from you, where can they go?
Yeah, definitely follow me on Instagram or LinkedIn. Those are the two channels that I am the most active. If you look me up, I'm Molly Catherine Lopez, I think, on both of those channels. But yeah, I would love to connect with you. And especially this year, I'm trying to share more from my founder journey and professional life on both of those channels, and happy to connect with people who are on the same journey.
That's great, Molly. And thank you so much for spending some time with us. It was really fun chatting with you.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Atul.
This is Genius Talk Podcast, and I'm your host Atul Raj from the bestemailmarketer.com, of course. So, speaking of email marketing, if you got some questions, challenges, doubt, or just simply need some help with your email marketing, then reach out to me at atul at the rate thebestemailmarketer.com, and I'll be happy to help.